I hope President Trump is right that Russia is close to wanting to do a ceasefire. But if you look at the history of the relationship between Russia and Ukraine and Putin's motivations, there's not much reason to think that we can take him in good faith and accept that he's going to make compromises. And Russia and Putin really only respond to strength. And to have a ceasefire now that would freeze the border with all of the territory that Russia has already taken under Russian occupation, and then to ease sanctions, which would come with ceasefire, would only allow Putin to restock his weapons, to strengthen his economy, and prepare for the next stage of breaking that ceasefire and taking more Ukrainian territory and perhaps posing a threat to the rest of Eastern Europe. So while I hope President Trump is correct in his view that Putin is ready to do a ceasefire, I personally am skeptical, and I think we should bring him to the table and test him and see if he really will make compromises.
Well, speaking of bringing him to the table, David, my last question for you. We know Moscow, the Kremlin certainly reacted with glee to what the world saw Friday. What do you think this potentially means for the relationship between the U.S. and Russia?
Look, I saw that. I saw the reaction of Russia's foreign minister and spokesman, and they're so happy to have this happen. And they're now saying, hey, we think the U.S. looks at this situation the way we do, which is stunning. And remember, we're talking about Putin, a war criminal who's led his Russian troops to commit atrocities in Ukraine, abducting children and taking them back to Russia, raping women, killing innocent civilians in Ukraine. He's indicted as a war criminal. He's killed Navalny and all of the other political opponents inside Russia who threatened him. So we know, based on the facts, which country is a democracy, Ukraine, and which country is a kleptocracy, a dictatorship, and engaging in war crimes. And so I don't think it's good for the Trump administration to have Russia saying, hey, we see eye to eye. We have common ground here. I think the United States, President Trump shouldn't want that compliments, those types of compliments from Russia. And my guess is that the Trump administration will now take a more forceful view towards Russia, and they should think very strongly about keeping the sanctions in place, perhaps even increasing the sanctions on Russia, because you need more pressure on Russia to bring Putin to the table. And I would also finally note, as a final point, that inside the United States, there's still a lot of popular support for Ukraine. If you look at a Pew Research poll that came out on February 15th, 55% of Americans think we're doing the right amount or not enough to help Ukraine. Only 30% of Americans think we're doing too much. So the Trump administration should be wary of that. If they go too forceful against Ukraine, if they turn things too far towards Putin, there could be a backlash from the American people who don't want to see Russia win this war.
Yeah, we will certainly see what happens next. Always appreciate your insight. David Tafuri, thank you.
Thank you.
After the break,